Hey friends, welcome back to Crime Adjacent, the #1 true crime podcast in the world, thanks to you. I'm glad you're here because things are heating up in northern Michigan, the site of this season's case. Here's where things stand. United States Olympics rugby gold medalist Aubrey Ertz told her story to the Petoskey Tribune, as well as to her 7.5 million followers on TikTok. It was Friday morning, September 27, 2024. She had arrived just the night before at her large 5-bedroom cabin located a few houses down from the Bear River Country Club on Walloon Lake. As captain of the squad, she planned a team-building weekend with some of her key teammates, but she arrived early to kinda chill out on the lake and prepare. On Thursday night, the night before, the night Deputy Swanson and I settled in for a long stakeout that would end with the arrest of Jimmy Ball. Ertz said she drank some wine, read a book, Nina Simon's spectacular Mother-Daughter Murder Club if you're interested, and then she went to bed. Everything was fine. Great. It was just the perfect restful vacation she was looking for. But then, at around 5:30 a.m., alone in one of the bedrooms, peacefully asleep, she felt something. It was still dark when she woke up, so she didn't see anything right away, but the feeling remained. Someone was in her room, touching her foot. Then this someone suddenly whispered, "So smooth." It was the clown. Again, but just like Claire Gasly, no one had told Ertz that there was some creepy dude running around, stalking cabins, breaking into them, assaulting women. It turns out, it wouldn't have mattered. Ertz bolted upright, realizing right away what was happening, or at least the rough outlines. Someone was rubbing her feet, and she was having absolutely none of it. As she explained in one of her TikToks, and I quote here, Ertz leapt straight up, lurched to the end of the bed, and just swung a haymaker at whoever the fuck that was. And it connected, big time. The man stumbled backwards, slammed against the doorframe, and fumbled for an exit, groaning the entire time. Ertz didn't know this at the time, she said. She only discovered it later. But the man had dropped a 3-foot piece of rope during his exit. This same kind of rope was used to kill realtor Yuki Sugita over in Traverse City just weeks before. This clown man was clearly escalating, from peeping to breaking in to stealing shoes to foot rubs and now murder and potentially another one, which was only stopped because, as Ertz said, she has a personal philosophy that went like this, and I quote, "If there's a man in your room and you didn't invite him there, punch first and ask questions later." Turns out, this philosophy, while fulfilling, also happened to provide the first big break in this case. Here's the story. But first, if you want to learn the real story about how the first FBI profilers turned their interviews with serial killers into scientific material, that's the subject of January's True Crime College over at our Patreon page, patreon.com/crimeadjacent. We're reading the very first attempt to take this fledgling profiling idea from way back in the 70s and turn it into something more solid and repeatable and scientific by the mid-1980s. It's a wildly fascinating piece, and I hope you'll join us. So check out patreon.com/crimeadjacent for more. I hope to see you there. From San Francisco, this is Crime Adjacent, the never-ending true crime thriller told weekly. I'm Chase Patrick. I was there when Sheriff Press interviewed Aubrey Ertz in her cabin on Walloon Lake that morning, Friday. Deputy Swanson had booked Jimmy Ball into jail on charges of breaking and entering, at the very least, with more charges to come. But she basically put him on ice for the time being. I, meanwhile, hightailed it over to Ertz's cabin, which was already a scene. Outside, on the driveway, The Petoskey Tribune reporter, Janet Huddleston, was shouting questions at Sheriff Press and even me, but had to settle for interviews with locals who were already there, peeping around the crime scene tape. Huddleston had a lot of material to work with, because realtor Ebony Astor and tech blowhard billionaire and Lake resident Roger Michaels were at it again, basically continuing their same argument from just the day before. I actually checked out the Tribune story that arose from that morning, and Huddleston spent the entire bottom half of the story on this debate about whether to allow short-term rentals on the lake and whether the clown creeper was connected to these rentals. In fact, Huddleston wrote that there was a town meeting in the works to address everyone's concerns. The whole town was beginning to spin apart. Also, as an aside that will become important later, this newspaper story, published the next day, Saturday, September 28, 2024, was the first time anyone started calling the creeper the Nightstalker. The name didn't fully change until later, but I just thought it was interesting how these guys are named, either by themselves, like the Zodiac, or by the press, like the Texarkana Phantom, or here, later, the Michigan Nightstalker. Anyway, sorry, I just thought it was interesting. While it was a madhouse outside of Ertz's cabin, inside, things were different. Calmer. Much calmer. Press had seen her fair share of courtrooms. She knew her every movement or statement or piece of evidence she picked up would one day be analyzed in the cold, sterile environment of the courtroom, where any mistake is amplified and dissected for all to see. During my interactions with her throughout this case, I could see she was keenly aware of this. So she was calm, thorough, exacting. What she discovered during this process would provide the first big break in this case. In the kitchen, Ertz was slugging a protein shake and plowing through a plate of waffles while Press interviewed her at the counter. She did that thing she does, clapping her hands together loudly and then rubbing them a few times. Press said, "Okay, tell me again. You didn't hear anything." Ertz shook her head. "No engines? Nope. No motors? Nope. No tires squealing away? Nope. No other voices, leaves crunching, gravel, neighbors shouting, boats, dogs, anything. No, no, no." Ertz washed down her waffles with another slug from her bottle and said, "No, nothing. I heard him rush downstairs, slam the door, and then that's it. I went to look outside after throwing on some clothes, but he was gone. It was as if nothing had happened at all. He just disappeared." By this time, Swanson had returned from booking Jimmy Ball into jail and was nodding her head in agreement. She told Press, "Local, I'm telling you, this guy knows how to get in and out. He knows which cabins are rented by single women, and he knows how to escape. He's coming on foot and just disappearing into the woods. This is someone who knows the area, intimately." Press changed the subject. She asked Ertz again about the punch she threw at the creeper. "Are you positive you connected? This is important." Ertz put her fork down. She smiled and flexed her bicep like, "Look at this baby." It was, honestly, enviable. And also just part of the larger story. I had asked Press and Ertz if I could just set my phone on the table and record, and they both agreed, and oh my god, I'm glad they did. I never would have remembered this next part. Ertz is not only a gold medalist, but she's also a doctor as well, an actual medical doctor who plans to work in the ER when her playing career is up. And, you're not going to believe this, also a PhD physicist. She's like the Nadia Nadim of rugby. Ertz explained, and I quote here, "They don't pay most women athletes for shit, but especially rugby players. And honestly, I'm smart as fuck, so I stayed in school for room and board so I could train and have a future." I liked Ertz a lot. As for the damage her punch inflicted, Ertz thought it over and really went to town, sort of figuring it out in her head, but also out loud for us lay people. It was a treat. Here's what she said. "So, okay, 250 pounds, rising, moving forward at a stationary object. I was on my knees on the bed, so I couldn't really get my hips and full torque into it, you know? And I'm guessing fist speed, effective striking mass, collision time, and check out this fucking hammer for a fist. She showed us. Her fist looked like a small Christmas ham. Okay, so you've got pounds per square inch equals force over contact area. I don't know, man. I'm guessing 3,500 pounds per square inch of peak force, maybe 4,000. But the bed absorbed some of my energy, and that stupid clown mask deadened it a little bit too. I could feel it. So I don't know, 3,000 maybe. The point is, I guess, the point you're looking for, I bet, is that yes, I hit that motherfucker hard. Dude definitely has a black eye by now, if that's what you're wanting to know. No doubt. None. She kissed her Christmas ham knuckles and threw a few pretend punches in the air. Dude is so lucky he got out when he did, because I was just warming up. For my part, I could see why Ertz has millions of followers on social media. She's a national treasure, and I'm a full-fledged rugby fan now, I guess. To Press and Swanson, Ertz had just provided a goldmine of information. They exchanged another glance between them, nodding as if they knew what the other was thinking. Local man, knows the area, knows how to escape, has a history of peeping, which doesn't prove he's the guy, but certainly raises questions. And now, best of all, the chief suspect in this case should be sporting a very noticeable black eye, if not symptoms of a full-blown concussion. Press clapped her hands again, loudly, and said, "We need to find Meeks." And that's exactly what we did next. Remember how I said the lake forms a tuning fork with a handle and two arms? Well, the Bear River Country Club is basically at the base of the handle, staring upwards towards the two arms. The place is extraordinary, to be honest. A huge white clubhouse with porches and a restaurant and a grassy lawn for weddings and parties. It's got a golf course, a swim club, tennis, the whole works. If you're going to spend your summer on the lake, this is the social hub for the well-heeled. And down by the water, there's a series of wooden docks that project out into the lake. Locals can park their boats here, grab lunch, golf, or they can swing by the enormous wooden covered boathouse to rent little sailboats or maybe have their smaller watercraft worked on or refueled. If you're a fan of vintage wooden boats, this is your place. Chris Crafts, Higgins, and Centuries, Walloon has them all. One man even owns a Truscott Puffin steamboat, like an actual 1800 steam-powered boat, and he just putters around all day, waving to boaters. Anyway, this lake, it's clearly beginning to grow on me. I can see why people flock to it. But the whole point is that this covered boathouse, down by the water, this is where Tim Meeks works, or worked. Sheriff Press and Deputy Swanson approached his cousin, Wesley, at the bar. Wesley is the guy who got him the job sort of off the books, like, sure, you can stay in the crappy little studio apartment room above the boathouse and we'll pay you for the summer to rent boats, but stay out of the way. Wesley said he wasn't entirely honest about Meeks' history, but this is often how jobs go, especially seasonal jobs like this. Under the table, some cash, stay quiet, out of the way. As far as Wesley was concerned, his cousin was doing fine. He had no problems. But when Press and Swanson were talking to Wesley, he repeated what he said earlier. He hadn't seen Meeks in days, or longer. He couldn't remember. But it wasn't really unexpected. Meeks was strange, which is why he was working and living there under the table on this boathouse little studio apartment in the first place. So no, Wesley could not say one way or another whether Meeks had a black eye. I noticed that Swanson paid particular attention to literally every single guest in the bar and around the clubhouse. She was scanning for injuries. In the end, Wesley happily pointed us toward the boathouse, saying we could search it all we like and see for ourselves. And so we did. And that's exactly where we found the ropes. Remember the kind of ropes left behind at the murder scene of Yuki Sugita, and then the piece of rope dropped at Aubrey Ertz's cabin? In the boathouse, we found ropes exactly like it. A perfect match, white with blue threads running through it. Case closed, right? Here's the literal murder weapon from Sugita's murder, and the same type of weapon left behind at Ertz's cabin just that morning. This is our guy, right? It's over. Not so fast. Because there was a huge, glaring red flag that stopped us in our tracks. We definitely found ropes in the lower section of the boathouse. No problem. They were everywhere. Reds, greens, whites, white with blue flecks, white with red flecks. But inside the little studio apartment on the second level where Meeks was living, all we found was a bed. There was an open armoire closet thing, and it had some rumpled clothes in it, clearly visible, and some clothes on the floor, also clearly visible. But there was also a small collection of sealed bins behind a stand-up mirror thingy, and those were not visible. What was inside them? But what was also not noticeably visible in Meeks' room upstairs were ropes. No ropes, no clown mask, and no Meeks. Press and Swanson argued about the ropes they found downstairs and what to do next. Remember when I said Press was precise and exacting, knowing all her movements and decisions in the boathouse would be clinically dissected one day in a courtroom? She told me this is exactly what she was thinking about. How to really nail this guy without giving him an out later in court. So yes, there were ropes in the boathouse below, possibly ropes exactly like those from the crime scenes, possibly from the same spools. But, and this is key, it wasn't just Meeks who had access to the boathouse, the downstairs part. There were other workers, mechanics, guests of the clubhouse, members, people just in for the day to dock their boats, have lunch, and leave. Literally any one of those people could have sliced away a few feet of rope and simply vanished, unnoticed. Yes, for sure, Meeks could have also just left his bed, went downstairs, cut away some ropes. It could be him. But because nothing was found in his actual private studio apartment, there was really nothing to pin on him. A defense lawyer worth her salt would punch holes in the theory that ropes in a public space like this simply had to be Meeks because he lived above them. So Press and Swanson soon began arguing about whether to get a warrant to turn his room upside down. On the one hand, it was property of the club, and Wesley, a manager, gave them permission. On the other hand, they really had nothing. No hard evidence at all linking Meeks to these crimes other than suspicion based on prior arrests, which never actually made it to actual charges or sentences. Press said she didn't think she could get a warrant for his private domicile. Not yet. And even if she did, she wondered if a future court might rule all evidence they found with a warrant inadmissible. It was a treat watching Press and Swanson work this out, I think because I got a little insight into how Nikki did her job as a detective for so long. This was painstaking work. They weren't lawyers by any stretch, but they had to think like lawyers while also investigating. It was kind of cool. And yet, Press and Swanson sort of deflated. Their only hope at this point was to find Meeks and examine his face. That might be enough. If he had a black eye, that might be enough to get a warrant to see if he also had a clown mask and ropes in his personal bins in his room. Except, maybe there was another thing. Possibly. It really depended on how much stock you put into a sociological concept dating back to the 1800s that has to do with clothes and consumerism and what our sartorial choices say about us, or more precisely, what we are trying to say with our choices. Could the arrest of Meeks really hinge on something as small and seemingly trivial as clothing choices? Next time on Crime Adjacent. There was so much to do that Friday. For starters, we had to track down Meeks. Despite the fact that it was only circumstantial evidence tying him to this case, he was local, lived above ropes and had access to them, had a history of peeping and exposure, and clearly had time on his hands to do all of this cabin creeping, given no one had actually seen him in days. He was, in the end, still the best possible lead at this point. And that's before you add in what we just discovered in his closet. I've really been enjoying your reviews of this show. It makes me so happy to see how many people have left reviews or 5-star ratings, and I just wanted to say thanks. This community is amazing, and I'm delighted you're here. Until next week, this is Chase Patrick from San Francisco with a reminder, it's not crime, it's crime adjacent.